Hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and we've got another knife for you today. This is going to be a full review, at least a partial teardown of this, because I got to show you some of the unique features on this knife. This is by Bestechman. This is Bestech's budget line of knives. The base price of this is right around $50, just under $50 US, a little bit more in Canada. I'll tell you all about those details later on. Bestechman has it in 10 different colorways, including 2 exclusives on their own website. Other stores will have various other ways. In Canada, I think it's listed under 4 ways at houseofknives.ca. They're out of stock online as I'm recording this. I don't know if they're going to get it back. Perhaps your local store, if you have a local store of House of Knives retail outlet, you might be able to find it there. The thing about this knife is it's not the D2 that Bestechman has been using on most of their knives, their first knives. I think this is their 6th knife, and they decided to use 10CR15 MOV, aka, I believe, 10CR15 CO MOV is the full nomenclature for it. I think this is the same steel as that. It just doesn't have the CO in the name, which is VG10. It's just a Chinese variant of VG10 because you know, they can't call it VG10 when they're making it in China because that's a name. It's not, you know, just the compounds. So the same compounds, decent, very thin knife, very thin, you know, spine, but very thin at the edge here for cutting. Light little urban EDC. I'm calling this a light use knife, and I'll show you all the details and reasons why, but it's colorful. Comes in a lot of different ways. Let's go to the tabletop and take a full close look at this knife. All right, here's the variant that I got. I bought this from White Mountain Knives, and you can get yours from White Mountain Knives too. This knife is, well, let's do the price first, sure. $49.90 US for the G10 version, $59.99 for the Ultim handle version. All of them are that VG10, 10CR15 MOV steel, and they're all coated either with black PVD or some color of paint. Yeah, they say it's painted, and you can get it in red, you can get the blade in a light blue, you can get it in a gold, which is, you know, more like a bronze kind of color, and you can get it in a pink, black PVD, or stonewash, just a stainless, a stonewash, just the stainless steel, the raw stainless steel done stonewash, which I think I wish I would have done. And I'll tell you why a little bit later on. So you're going to get those 6 different colorways for the blade. The handle, white G10, black G10, natural G10, a light blue G10. I think that's a special version of pink G10, OD green, or Ultim, so a number of different ways. So not all colored handles come with all the colored blades. So yeah, you've got that limitation, but there's still, what, 10 different colorways to get this knife, which is quite nice. And if you got enough money, hey, you can mix and match and create your own, because you could replace these blades and handles, you know, either way, no problem at all. Like I said, it's a pretty light, thin knife. Now, I got this one because, hey, it looked very Canadian to me, the colorways, white and red. I like that, so I decided to get this one. In hindsight, I would have preferred the stonewash one because the blade finish, this is my first con, the blade finish, at least on the painted ones, not that good. It had a tiny little chip right from the factory, right where my fingernail is. I'll give you a close-up shot of that on this side. And on this side, it looks like there's a tiny bit of dust underneath the paint right there. So the paint's over that dust because that's a raised thing. So I did not do my full suite of cut tests on this because I don't want to deface this finish. Maybe I will in the future, I don't know. But so far I have decided not to do my full suite of tests. The tests I did do cut really, really well. And that's largely because of how thin this edge is. What is it? 12.5 thousandths behind the grind. That's 0.32 millimeters. That's just thin at this edge. It's pretty thin up here. It's under 1/10 of an inch. You know, it's thin. It's it's very thin. We got a full flat grind. Well, I don't know if you call it a full flat grind. The flat here comes to about here, so the grind comes very close to the spine, and then it's all the way up here. I'm just going to call it effectively a full flat grind, especially with this blade being so thin. That makes it very, very slicey. It's not a stabby style knife with this blunt front. I'm calling it sort of a modified Wharncliffe style. You know, it's got that K-tip, which I like to call that a K-tip. And then you got a belly, nice and thin, a flat spine, a little bit of jimping up here, not much. And with that coating over there, it's not, you know, of course, it's not super grippy, but it's pretty nice. We've got some jimping on the exposed partial liners here, and I'll show you the partial liners later on. So that gives good grip for your thumb there. The handle's not tiny, but it's not big. My hands are just barely in the extra large range in their width, but I can get a full grip on this knife, and you know, it's comfortable. It's a very comfortable grip. We've got 3D milled handle scales. They're a little thicker right in the middle, but it is arched ever so slightly and then rounded on the edges here. And then they've done weight reduction on the G10 as well, and I'll show you that later. You might be able to see it in there. So they've cut out some of the G10, and the liners are just held, are these partial liners between this screw and the pivot screw. Short little liners, kind of like, you've seen them in the past, you know, on the Griptilian, other knives, but those have a tang that comes back, like a narrow tang. This is just the front section. I reviewed another knife that was made the same way. I forget which one it is, with just this small section of metal here. But G10 is stiffer and more robust, in my opinion, than FRN, so it doesn't flex if you try to bend it this way. I'm sure, well, I can flex it a tiny bit, but it's not going to break as easily as FRN does when you try to pry it apart like that. But it is weaker than a full liner. And so this is not a heavy-duty knife. We got a thin blade. We've got a very light handle, but it's quite robust for what you get. And I'll go through the whole weights later on. It's just a tiniest little bit over 2 ounces. And yeah, it's a light little full-size knife. How did I like it? I like it. It carries light. A pocket clip goes right or left. I wish they would have put a little plate in here. You know, they could have done that for the space here, for taking up the space for the pocket clip. And we've got, you know, their custom sort of an homage to their logo in the pocket clip. Pocket clip sits out nicely there like that. It's a good pocket clip. We got button screws there. Those are T6s. And they've got little brass spacers put in there to thread them into. It hasn't come loose at all, I mean, in my testing, and that's okay. And either side. The rest of these screws are T8s. I think that, is this one here to T8 too? I haven't taken it apart yet. No, that one's not a T8. Where do I have a T6? That's a T8 as well. I have a T6 here. That's a T8 as well. Where's my T6? I'm not doing all editing in this video. I found I was quite sick. That's editing, so I still want to do editing. Yeah. T6 right here. T8s. Are these T6s as well? Oh, they're not very tight at all. I could loosen them just like this. These are T6s as well. Okay, so they're T6 button screws, which I'm not that fond of. That's a T8 pivot screw, and it wasn't very tight either. There's no Loctite in these, which I prefer. I'd rather add my own if I want it, instead of have the factory add too much. So yeah, that's not terrible, especially in the price range. I'd prefer these were all T8. Maybe the pocket clip T6 would be fine. We've got T6 here as well, so you could take these thumb studs off if you want to. Now, if I decide to strip this blade, like strip all the paint off the blade, and, you know, I would only do that after I'd used it for a while and started to mar up this surface, which I'm convinced will happen. You know, then I might do that. But who knows, I might just sell this knife as it is, and we'll see. But let me go over the rest of this. Comfortable handle, pros, blade shape, very useful, very functional, very thin, decent steel. Rockwell, it's going to be, the hardness is going to be around 60 on this. Might be a tiny bit less, might be a tiny bit more. Can't really measure it with this coating on it anyways, but I don't have a tool to measure it anyways, the proper hardness tester. But on the minor testing that I did, it's pretty good. It's a decent steel, which I quite like. What else do I like about it? Lightweight, light colored, very slicey, comfortable, good ergonomics, fully ambidextrous, nice, access lock. They call it a B lock for some reason. Bestech knives do. One of the reasons why I know that the coating is quite soft, it's come off on the tang of the blade right here very easily, and it's just rubbed off without me using it extensively. And right here, you might be able to see a tiny spot. I should do a close-up of that too if I remember. That's where the stop pin gets impacted. The blade comes back and hits this stop pin. That's taken that finish off there too. So this coating is mostly decorative. A VG10 stainless, it doesn't need a coating, which is why, if you want a nice stonewash finish, you might want to buy the black handled one with the stonewash blade. I like this as a good urban EDC light use pocket knife. I really like it for that, and very appealing to me. The lock works really well, and thumb studs, easy to deploy the knife with your thumb or underneath with your finger. Oop, I stopped it with my finger there. I did it again. There you go. It works quite well. And, left or right-handed, it's, whoop, I let that slip out. There we go. Because I didn't have the pocket clip give me grip right there. I like it. It's nice. Badging on it, it's not too in your face, but I don't really like badging on the main bevel here. But there you go, Bestech Man, their logo there. And then the steel type is right there, 10CR15 MOV, which I think I said in the intro is probably 10CR15 CO MOV. They just shortened it. If they took the CO out, it might be a little less of a steel than 10CR15 CO MOV is. So yeah, I just don't know. I've tried looking up 10CR15 MOV, and there's really very little details out there about that. With the CO MOV, it's known that that is basically VG10. So is it VG10 just made by the Chinese? I don't know. I think so, but can't say for certain. Let's do the weights and measurements of all this thing. The weight of this knife, 60 grams. 60 grams, which is 2.12 ounces, well, 2.116 ounces. So yeah, nice and very light. I didn't show the balance point before. That's right there. And it's very light indeed. The sharpness from the factory, I got a score of 170 best on my tester, which is quite good. The cutting edge length, so between my thumbnails there, 76.6 millimeters, 3.02 inches of cutting edge. The tip of the blade to the closest spot on the handle scales right there, that is 80.6 millimeters, 3.17 inches. The thickness of the steel with this coating on it, 2.18 millimeters, 0.086, so 86 thousandths of an inch thick, or, it's less than a tenth, it's less than 0.09 of an inch, so it's thin and light. The blade depth this way, it's largest right where my index fingers are right now, 29.0 millimeters, 1.14 inches. The thickness behind the grind, like I said, is 32.32 millimeters, which is 12.5 thousandths of an inch thin. And that's why it's sliced very, very well, especially all the soft stuff. I didn't try to slice hard stuff because I didn't want to wear this paint off. The handle length, and that is 104.3 millimeters, 4.11 inches. So that's a decent size. The grip area, so between my thumbnails there, that's roughly 8.5 centimeters, 3 1/3 inches. Not bad. The thickness of the handle in the middle at the thickest spot, that is 10.5 millimeters, 0.413, so quite thin, but not stupid thin. And the handle depth within the grip area is widest right there, 24.9 millimeters, 0.98, so that's an inch basically. And when the knife is closed in your pocket, the widest point is right here, 31.9 millimeters, 1.26, so 1.25 inches into your pocket, not bad. And the total length of this thing is 185 millimeters, 7.28, so just over 7¼ inches long with the blade deployed. So it's just into that, you know, full-size pocket knife class, and yet it's very light. But is it tough enough? Oh, I didn't tell you about the prices. House of Knives, it's $80 Canadian. With the Ultim, it's $92 or $93. If you can find it. The only spot I found it was houseofknives.ca, out of stock. I did the pros. The cons, it's the subframe. I don't like that little subframe. And let me see, where did I put that T6 screw? Yeah, I just have it like this, and I can take these out. So let's take this apart, and we're going to see how this is made. If I can take it off this side. Yeah, even this side, which I don't mind it not being stupid tight, but I would tighten it up more. Oh, I did have Dave in Nebraska. I order most of my knives that I order from the States, have them sent to Nebraska, and Dave takes them apart for me, and he mails me the blades and handles separately. So here's how it's made. There's that little subframe, the steel subframe. There's a little bit of grease in there for the springs to ride on, the Omni spring. We got these pins back here for the body pins. There's no backspace. There's nice little hourglass pins. Oh, there's a lanyard hole. I didn't talk about the lanyard hole yet. And there's where the brass or bronze is inset into the G10. I've seen other knives do that, and it's not been a problem, so I think they've probably done a good job. Bestech does a good job. And there's that weight reduction. Even in the G10, they've taken out some of that material just to make it even lighter. Decently constructed. I don't mind. Oh, I just about lost that pin right there. It was coming out. Is that a... That's not a free spinning pin, is it? I got to take a closer look. No, I think it's a D-shaped pin, just slightly D-shaped. I don't want to take it completely out. Yeah, that's a D-shaped pin, and it's locked in place either there or, well, somehow that pin is locked in place so that the Bestech logo right there, which is like a negatively done, there's a B sort of hidden in there, or you can say it's a nice big T, kind of like on the pocket clip, you know, that, whatever you want. I don't know what that logo exactly is. I think that's what it is. So that's how it's constructed. Let's put this back together again, and we'll get on with the rest of the review, which is basically going to be my summary. Got to put my glasses back on so I can see where I put the screwdriver and stuff. There we go. There we go. Oh, washer came out. So, yep, I got to take this all the way apart. I will edit this part out because I don't want the video to be too terribly long. I got to fix all that. Well, the pivot pin did come all the way out, and yes, it is a D-shaped pivot pin, and we got a D-shaped section on the other side right there to stop it from spinning. And here you can see the little, I put some lubrication on there already. There wasn't a lot on there. Focus, come on. You've got tiny ceramic ball bearings in there. What is there? There's 10 ball bearings on there, a little bit of lube, and, oh, I didn't drop it on the floor good because that would have gotten all dusty. So I'll put it back together again, and I'll see in a second. So I did take it all the way apart, and now I've got to play with it. It's going to take, you know, this camera's in the way, so I'm just going to do it off camera. But that's what it looks like taken all the way apart, so you know what's in there. By the way, if you want to watch a video on how to assemble axis lock knives, crossbar locks, B-lock, whatever they call them, different companies, I've got videos on that too. I'll try to link it right here at the top or at the bottom, or just search for how to assemble axis lock knife on my channel. It's an old video. I'm not going to do it now. A couple things I should mention. This screw is a tiny bit shorter than these body screws back here. So if you take it all the way apart, sort out your screws. Remember, this is a tiny short one. You don't want too long of a screw for it to go all the way through and potentially touch the side of your blade if your blade comes a little loose. I use Fibertight VC3 instead of Thread Locker on mine. You can watch my video on that if you want to. I've got a couple of videos. I really like that. But when it's properly tightened up, there's no blade play side to side, and yet it still very, easily moves, especially since I used Gunny Glide. That's my favorite lubrication. Just like that stuff an awful lot. You can see a video on that too if you want. But yeah, that's kind of nice. Blade alignment, not perfect, but it's pretty close. And yeah, little light knife. What do I think of this thing? Well, I've got a tiny mar on the, well, not that tiny anymore. Now I got a mar right there on the blade just from putting it back together again. This coating, this paint is what they call it. It looks pretty, but it's not a good idea. PVD would be tougher than this stuff, the PVD coated, but I would strongly suggest if you're going to use the knife and you don't like having, the surface on your blade, smear off, get wiped off, get rubbed off, get damaged. If you don't like damaged coatings, then yeah, you're going to want the stonewash version. It's just, this is pretty, not very good. It's just not very good at all, especially with the defects from the factory. Some dust was on the surface here and it painted over on that spot. And here it was chipped, when I got it. And they should have noticed that at the factory. So there's that. And now just putting it back together again, it's marred up right there, right? I'm not sure what I rubbed on there, but I certainly damaged that surface a tiny, well, enough that it reflects it back. You can see it there. So yeah, but I like the design. I like the ergonomics. The steel's decent in my opinion. It's a well done knife in that regard. It's just the blade coating execution's the main thing. Next thing, I don't like T6, especially T6 button screws that are recessed. That's just a pet peeve of mine. It's annoying. And it's not a hard use knife. It's certainly not heavy duty. I don't even call this a medium duty knife. This is a light duty EDC. And as long as you know what you're getting, there's nothing wrong with a light duty EDC knife if that's what you want. And in that, I like this. This is nice. And price, not terrible. So there you go. So you saw the full teardown, you saw everything. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. If you've watched this far, please subscribe. Less than 10% of my viewers have subscribed, and it's actually less than 9%. So I would really appreciate some more subscriptions. It really does help me out when companies, contact me to try to send me some stuff. I do accept stuff occasionally from some brands. This I bought. And so this review is, that I try to give the exact same quality, exact same in-depth, the exact same kind of critiques and stuff of knives that I get sent to me as well by the company, because they want my honest review. Companies actually want reviewers to give them honest, full, clear feedback. They don't want yes men. From my experience, because that's how they know what to improve on their knives. And many companies have thanked me when I've given them reviews, give them negative feedback on certain components or the whole thing, and they thank me for it. Honestly, it's weird. At least it seems weird, but it makes sense when you really think about it. They want to make a better product so that they can sell more product. Because if you get known for making bad products, people won't buy your stuff, right? So reviewers can help them improve their products. And this knife, it needs a couple little things, not an awful lot, and it'd be a really nice knife. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and that subscription, of course. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.